Hey everyone, what's up TGL Nation? In this video, I want to do a little bit of a guide on the best way, in my opinion, to play Real Racing 3 on Noxplayer on your PC using Noxplayer with the backup files provided by the Project Armageddon preservation effort. The reason why I want to make this is pretty simple. The lack of tilt controls could maybe make this very unappealing, or say, hey, this is going to be way harder to drive than it normally is. And I just want to show how I play the game and how I think how best to set this game up from just a controls standpoint. So this isn't necessarily a hard tutorial. You must do this. This is simply a guide, and if you want to make your own adjustments or tweak it along the way, you're more than welcome to do so. First, I'll show you just my control setup here. Where are we? Here we go. So normally I use wheel B flipped, and I've got my steering sensitivity at like 1, maybe 2. It kind of depends on the car. If you're driving like the MP4X, then you want the least sensitive steering and maybe like 1 steering assist. I'll have traction control on for this. Now let's turn it off. Let's make it really tough. Let's make it tough on myself. So I'm gonna do this twice. I'm gonna show you with the keyboard, and then I'm gonna show you with a mouse. And I think the best way to showcase it is with NASCAR and oval racing, because it requires very finite touch and movement. If there's any issue with sensitivity, we'll know. So let's do Indianapolis. Indianapolis is similar. Just add enough upgrades. And we're gonna get to the race first, just because I want to showcase what to do. And we're kind of throw away the race here, and then we'll restart with the controls and we'll move on. So on your keyboard, so I'm going to turn my camera on just so you can see what I'm looking at and everything. There we go. So I'm going to hit Control and the 1 key together, and that brings up the keyboard mapping menu. Now for the steering wheel side, on this right side of the screen, I'm going to use my mouse, obviously, but I need a throttle and a brake button to at least just control the car. So I believe, was it throttle down below, and then I believe so anyway. So let's tap on screen with the mouse. Now I can set a key that will create an action at that point. Let's use like the space bar. Space bar is pretty big. Okay, and then up here for brakes, we'll use, let's see, if I'm using my thumb for this, I can use Y. That's pretty easy between those 2 fingers to use on that. And I can even go back and forth if I needed to, but really brakes aren't important for oval racing. Now, if I wanted to set other keys, like let's say pause, let's click up my pause and we'll hit the Z key. If I hit the Z key on the keyboard, that will pause the game. If I want to look back, let's do M for mirror, and for over here in the camera change, we'll do C. Something just simple like that. We'll hit the save button down here, and now we've got our controls. And now we'll restart the race with our new controls, and we'll make sure that they work. What I really want to show you is the mouse and how I can use the mouse to be precise. I want to click down low, click and hold, but then drag my mouse up the screen. So I'm going to drag the mouse up the screen. That means I get much more calculated inputs. Right? It allows me to put inputs in way more smoothly. Smoothly? Yeah, that's a word. And now, as you can see, as long as I continue to click and hold, I have constant input in the steering, and it is very smooth. And as you can see, it takes, even on level 1, right, 1 sensitivity, it's still barely moving the mouse. You know, I'm still barely moving the mouse and getting a ton of movement from it. Now when I start making more erratic moves, it maybe gets a little bit tougher because there's not a delay, but it's much tougher to make quick, you know, jerk movements. So I can swerve back and forth, but I'm in control. And we have no, whoa, whoa, that was a big slide there. Oh, now things are falling apart for us. But oval racing is probably the toughest if you're trying to use like tap to turn or something else. And if you're using the wheel and you're not using it correctly, it can also be very, very sensitive and require tiny, tiny inputs to move. But as you can see, this is, dare I say, buttery smooth. I mean, I can just cruise right around with great inputs, so long as I click and hold near the bottom of the screen and then drag my cursor up towards the top of the window, and it creates a wider arc of movement instead of just trying to move the wheel a little bit left and right. So that's how I set it up when I'm playing on PC. So I have very, very smooth inputs and everything's fairly simple. I still need to navigate the menus with the mouse and click around on screen. But using a mouse and keyboard, it sounds like it would be a pain, but it's really, honestly pretty good. But now I want to do something very similar, basically the same thing, but I want to do it with a controller and show you that you can get very similar results if you want to use a controller instead. We're going to use just about the same scenario, and we're going to get very, very similar, equal results. Okay, now I have plugged a controller in, and again, I can either hit Control+1 here on the keyboard, or I can go up to the right side here. There's like a keyboard looking logo. I can click that. That opens up the keyboard mapping option, or I can also hit Control+1, and that opens up this option as well. Again, I'm going to have a race going on screen so that I can visualize where I want my buttons to be. Up here on the keyboard mapping though, we want to make sure that we switch from keyboard to controller. So let's click on that, and you'll see that there's actually an option already up. This would be the inverse, so this would be wheel B, not flipped, but similar scenario. So let's click down here where the gas or your throttle would be, and then we'll click the button on the controller. There's that, and then we'll click up here for brake, and we'll click the left trigger. For some reason that comes up as home, I don't know why. And then on here, we want our left joystick to be the steering inputs. So let's select left joystick, put it right about where that wheel was, but again, we want it to be lower on here. Ooh, geez, that's close. Just got clobbered. We're gonna make it a little bit bigger. We're gonna stretch it out, and we'll put it about here. We'll see, we may need to make some adjustments, of course. Let's make our look back button the upper left bumper. Change camera will be the right bumper. And of course, we'll make one of these buttons up here the start button. Let's hit the save button. And I'm going to do my best to keep the controller in frame here, because we're going to do something very similar. We're going to be pushing up on the joystick and using the top of the joystick as our turning device. We're not going to turn the joystick left and right. We're going to be pushing the joystick up, just like you would be pushing the cursor up on your mouse. Now I can tell you right now, this feels way more sensitive. Whoa! This feels way more sensitive than it did on the mouse. I felt like I could make much smoother inputs on the mouse. I feel like I'm making, that's probably just because the joystick is so much smaller than the mouse. Those tiny movements are exaggerated and make my movements a bit more erratic. So I may drop it down to 0% sensitivity. right? I may make that turning radius like 0% sensitivity. But as you can see, you know, there's a lot going on screen that just isn't happening while I'm using the joystick. Look back works. We'll use the bumper here to change camera. Yep, that's working really nice. Whee! And to the lead, and once again, inputs are nice and smooth. I feel much more in control of the car than I would if I was using tap to steer or something like that. And the best thing about this is that you can use this with a controller, or you can just use your mouse and keyboard and get as good, actually, if not better results. Again, I feel like it's not nearly as sensitive when using a mouse as I am when using this controller. But nice little drift there. Just to show you how much control you have. Yeah, let me just show you, because I've been using the joystick, pushing up on the joystick this whole time. Let me just show you what happens when you're not, for this last lap. If you tried to use the joystick like you would normally, right? You would just tap to turn. The car almost doesn't react at all, right? I'm left, right. You get those inputs, but you can see how much more erratic it is. Maximum turn to the left automatically makes the car slide, because it's like you're putting 100% force into turning the car. So I mean, you can use it this way, right? If you would rather use it this way, if you feel like you could get comfortable with this level of control, you could just see the wheel on screen though, how there is no in between. I'm turning the wheel, it's max turn. I put inputs into the wheel, it's turning fully, and it's usable. It's usable. I mean, if you want to play it that way, I'm not gonna shame you, or you're doing it wrong. But if you want smooth inputs, that kind of smooth input you would get from tilt to steer, I would rather you push up on the remote or on the joystick and use it that way. But it works both ways. I think it just takes time. It just takes a little bit of time and experience, and you can adapt. You get used to it. That's how I play Real Racing 3 on PC, and I feel like I get the most control out of it. I have the best control over my car in these scenarios, in this situation. If you enjoyed this video and you found it helpful, go ahead and give the video a like. As always, there's a new wave, a new phase of game versions that are coming soon, so make sure that you're subscribed and you've got notifications on for that. I want to just say thanks for the absolutely insane support. The incredible amount of attention this project has gotten lately has been simply mind-boggling, and I really, really, really appreciate it. I will see you all in the next video, and until next time, keep on gaming, everybody.